Okay, Be'ezat Hashem, Naaseh v'Natzliach. I want to welcome you to this class that typically we have it at Benes Faradim Synagogue here in Hollywood, but due to the unforeseen circumstances that we're in right now, a lot of the classes have gone into Zoom. And Baruch Hashem, I'll be honest with you, it's almost like it's a little difficult to do classes that are not connected to Mashiach, not connected to what's going on. You know, this is going to be like a regular class. It's going to be like a class that we did throughout the entire year, where we're just learning Torah, learning how to pray, learning Parashat Shavua, learning how to connect to Hashem. So this might be a little bit less of a class that talks about the events and the times over here, and just maybe a little bit of a throwback to the regular learning that we typically do, which we just pick a subject, we dissect it, we learn it, and we get to understand it on a much higher level. So this particular class that we hold in Benes Faradim is a class about the insights of Birkot Hashachar. We've made some serious headway, and we got stopped right at Baruch Ata Hashem Elokeinu melech haolam Shelo Asani goy. And typically we were doing about 2 or 3 berachot in each lesson, but this particular lesson is going to be only one. It's only Baruch Shelo Asani goy, because there's a lot over here that we can dive into and unravel the beauty that's in this particular beracha. Before we get started, I'd like to dedicate tonight's learning to the Ilui Nishmat of David ben Zohara, Yaniv ben Rinam, Moshe Levi ben Shoshana, Shmuel ben Amuma, Tzion ben Zechariah, Rabbi Azra Labaton, Sarah Ita bat Shmuel, and Avraham ben Moshe. Fortunately, we can help in the spiritual ascent of these people, and unfortunately, the list of Ilui Nishmat is getting bigger and bigger by the day. So, you know, a lot of children, grandchildren want to get involved in the forwarding the spiritual level of their parents, grandparents, and it's great that there are a lot of people are getting involved, and we can help them out as well. On the brighter side, you know, lehavdil, we'd like to also dedicate this lesson to the refuah for a speedy recovery and continued health to Esther Bat Vishna, Miss Esther Sorcerer, and for anybody who is suffering also from the virus, Be'ezat Hashem, that there be refuah shelema bimhera bimhera bimhera, and also maybe this lesson be to the atzlacha of Stacy Esther Bat Miriam, Guy Ben Dina, Henshi Gordetsky, Michael Citron, and for Avraham and Yaakov Sakal, or is it Yosef? Yosef, probably. Yosef. Amen. Okay, let's get started. Anyways, Yitbarach Shemo Shel HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Be'ezat Hashem, that all the people that are tuning in, the people that are supporting, Hashem Varech Otchem, Sameach Otchem, and give you health, wealth, success, Bracha V'Atzlacha, Simcha Meruba, and Briut Eitana, and that Be'ezat Hashem will be again be able to gather in our synagogues, be able to gather in our bet midrashim, that we can go over there and really learn in groups and sharpen each other's Torah learning, because doing it on computer, Baruch Hashem, it's a second best, but it's not the way that it's supposed to be. Okay, let's get started. Birkot Hashachar. So we've done about 7 classes already, Baruch Hashem. And the whole point here is how to start the day. And when you start the day, it's all about Modeh Ani, the meaning of each different beracha, the meaning behind it, and what should one think about it. Even though that we already did a couple of berachot already ahead of us, and we're up to Shelo Asani goy, I just want to go back to the people that already have been part of this class. When it comes to Modeh Ani, Modeh Ani Lefanecha Melech Vekam Shehazarta bi nishmati Bechemla Rabba Emunatecha Nishmati, the neshama, but also you can think that linshom, the fact that we can breathe, what a rare commodity nowadays. People that are infected by, millions of people that are infected by this particular virus, they're struggling with their breath, they're struggling with breathing, they're struggling with their lungs. One of the things that can still have a kavanah when you wake up in the morning, Hashem, thank you, I'm breathing normally. Another kavanah that you can do, we learned about Baruch Ata Hashem Elokeinu melech haolam matir asurim, the one that frees the imprisoned. You know, the kavanah today, free us. We're in quarantine. We want to leave the house already. Let us go. Let us go back to our regular routine, to our jobs, to our minyanim, to our Torah classes, to the socializing that we're so used to do. We miss it. So Baruch Ata Hashem Elokeinu melech haolam matir asurim, get us out of the quarantine. Like again, you know, each time, each week, each month, each year, if you really concentrate, you can find ways how you can connect to the Birkot Hashachar, and how they can just be something that has a meaning early in the morning, as opposed to something that you just rush through just to get to the next part of the day. Well, we're definitely not going to rush through the next beracha. It's a beracha Shelo Asani, and it's very interesting. You know, it says you're telling Hashem, "Blessed you, Hashem, that you didn't make me a Gentile." So, right there and then, you could say, you know, it's a bit arrogant. It's a bit arrogant, maybe even a bit racist. What do you mean, Shelo Asani goy? What's so bad about being a goy? What's so bad about being a Gentile? They're people too. They're God's creation as well. Why does the bracha have to be so negative? Shelo Asani goy. Why don't we say it like the way it says in Masechet Brachot? She'asani Yehudi, she'asani Israel. You know, point out the positive, that Hashem made me a Jew or from the nation of Israel. Why does it have to be a negative? Shelo Asani goy, that He didn't make me a Gentile. So it's very interesting, because the truth is we don't hate the goyim. And then,
you know, by the way, I read in Siddur of Reform or Conservative, this is like the form that they put it. Sha'asan Israel.
Sha'asan Israel. It's interesting. It's brought in the Gemara. It's brought like that.
Yes,
but
so they took it from there, like you said.
Maybe that the how you say the Karaim, that they read it literally for what it is. But it's funny because they don't follow the Gemara. It's funny that they drew from there. They only draw from the text of the Chumash. But again, so the truth is we don't hate the.
I said it was a conservative synagogue that I went inside and just opened the Siddur and I saw there like Sha'asan Israel.
You know, since you're on the subject, since you're on the subject of conservative, it says over there, usually they sit with men and women together. Now, usually when in a place where men and women sit together is Chukot HaGoyim. It's the ways of the Gentiles, and we don't copy them. And because we're not supposed to copy them, even if you're in that shul and there's no woman, you're not allowed to pray there. I just discovered it doing this class, by the way. You're not even allowed to pray there when there's nobody there, even if it's just men. Why? Because it's Chukot HaGoyim. Because our way is to have Azarat Nashim, or to have a Mechitza that you can't see their faces, you can't see their bodies. That's how we can share a space with women.
You're allowed to pray in the mosque, and you're not allowed to pray in a church.
So in a mosque, you're allowed to pray because they believe in God. They pray to Hashem. In a church, they have Shituf. Shituf meaning they
also, like in a mosque, they doesn't do. I said they doesn't do like together. Also in the mosque, so this is why you allow.
Very good. Okay, that was very good input, but I'll save the questions for later, guys. Okay. So again, Shelo Asani goy. Let's stick to that concept. We don't hate goyim, and we don't think that we are better than them. But there's a very big distinction between our spiritual makeup. You have to understand that the difference between a Jew and a goy is something that is very, very deep. We have to go a little bit Kabbalistic over here just to make ourselves understand. But the neshama, the soul, has several parts to it. The Jewish soul has 5 parts. It's called Naran, Nefesh, Ruach, Neshama. And then it has Chaya Yechida. Typically here in this world, we're able to reach the levels of Nefesh, Ruach, and Neshama. And different parts get added to the soul in different times of the day or different times of the year. As opposed to the Goyim that only have Nefesh. That's it. We have 5 parts or 3 with 2 that are possible on a higher ascent. The goyim only have one. They only have, the neshama is made of nefesh, which is what gives them their life force. Now, if you ever, if you want to understand what the difference is in Tehillim, in the Perek Kuf Mem Zayin, the 147th chapter, in the 20th pasuk, it says over there, Lo asachen lechol goy umishpatim bal yedaum hallelujah. It says that Hashem didn't do the exact same thing for the goyim. Lo asachen lechol goy. He didn't give the goyim the exact same thing like us. Umishpatim, and all our laws and all the way that we operate, bal yedaum, they're never going to understand them. Hallelujah. Why? You know, sometimes a goy comes over to you and he tells you, explain to me Shabbat, explain to me Yom Kippur, explain to me Kashrut, explain to me Sha'atnez, explain to me Para Aduma, they're curious about the religion. Are you allowed to share with them? Are you allowed to explain to them halachot? Are you allowed to explain to them Torah concepts? The truth is, you can't share that with goyim. You can't explain to them halachot. And the reason why is because that small nefesh, that neshama that's inside of them, cannot comprehend these Torah concepts. When you tell it to them, for example, if I tell some sort of a chidush, a Torah nuance, or if I do some sort of a halacha to a Jew, his neshama is structured in a way that he can accept it, that he can understand it, that he can work with the information that was given to it. When you give it to a goy, it's like, the neshama is stuck. That part of their soul is not going to digest it. It's not going to process it. So that's why we're not supposed to share it with them. Any goy that is really curious, go through the process. Go through the Aleph, Bet, Gimel, Dalet. Go learn Bereshit. Go learn Halachot. Go through the process where they work you up to it. Get converted. Get dipped. And you'll understand everything. But when people just come out of nowhere and say, explain to me this, explain to me that, you have to find a good kosher answer to give them in order to get out of it, because in reality, you're not supposed to share with them, because in reality, they're not going to get it. Because there's different structure in our spirituality, which we have and they don't. And this is also why the rabbis warn us not to connect to goyim. Now, not because, we're snobs or we're better than them, or there's so, what would be the reason that the rabbis say don't connect to the goyim? Do not, do not intermingle with them. Besides the fact of the things that it leads to. And the truth is, because we can relate to their gashmiut. We can relate to that nefesh, to that part of their neshama that's about physical desires and about the mundane. To that we can really, really connect to. We can relate to them. But they can't relate to our spirituality. Because their spiritual makeup is missing the ruach and the neshama. So when you are trying to share something with them, they're not going to get it. But when they share something with you, you are going to be able to get it, which allows you to connect with them, but they're not able to connect with you. With them, you can connect on the physicality, on the mundane. With you, they can't connect on the spirituality. So the rabbi told us it's better not to intermingle with them. Because if you're able to connect to them, they're just going to bring you to their side. That's why the Torah speaks so much about not intermingling with goyim, not to have, not to do events with them, not to break bread with them, because breaking bread and drinking with them actually brings you closer to them. And then what happens is maybe their daughters will want to be with our sons, or our sons will be with their daughters. And what happens in the end? If you ever, let the statistics show that most of the time when a Jew ends up with a Gentile, when a man marries a girl who is Goya, maybe, I don't know what the percentage is, but let's just say that the majority of the time, the woman has the power to control the house, and she pulls him into the other side. And you see that the guy is not putting on tefillin, not keeping Shabbat, not keeping kashrut, because he tapped into her. He's able to relate to her, but her to go to the other side, it's almost 7 out of 10 don't do it. So it has to do with our spiritual makeup of our neshamot. Furthermore, if you ever wondered, if you're telling me that a Jew has these special parts to his neshama and a goy doesn't, So when they convert, what happens? Do they get like a spiritual upgrade? Do they get an extra piece of neshama? And if so, where does it come from? I mean, the last process is when they dip in the mikveh, and after they dip in the mikveh, they come out, oh, you're Jewish. And then what? They now have the same spiritual structure as us? So this is very, very interesting. One time I heard this from Rav Meir Eliyahu, and it was a great, great explanation. He was elaborating on the pasuk about Sarah and Avraham. When people would visit them, they would convert them. They would come to their ohel, they would come to their tent, they would feed them, they would educate them, they would convert them. And when they would move from place to place, they would say that they would take with them et ha-nefesh asher asu, the nefesh, or the souls that they created. So it was very interesting. What do you mean the et ha-nefesh asher asu? So the rabbi explained it beautifully. He said, Avraham and Sarah had a child at a very late age. Sarah was 90, Avraham was 100. And they were married for a few decades already. And we know, halachically, a man has to be with his wife every single time of Ona. Meaning right after the menstrual cycle is over, you have that responsibility of having relations with the wife. So the entire time that they were trying to bear children, you have to understand that, I'm sure, I hope there's all adults over here that are listening, but, the human sperm in reality is all these little neshamot that are trying to become, to go into a human body and become a person. So when they don't go there, they sort of are neshamot without a body. That's why that zera lebatala is so bad, because a person takes out all this seed, puts it out into the world, all these neshamot without a body, and they say, hey, who created us? Who's the one that brought us into this world but didn't make sure to put us into a body? And they become these menacing angels. But at the same time, when you're doing it through a mitzvah, through onah, they don't become menacing angels. So the Rav Meir Eliyahu gave a beautiful explanation. He says that every single time that Sarah and Avraham had relations, they created these neshamot. And then later on, when they converted and they dipped, those neshamot is what came into the converts. Those neshamot is what was the additional piece that came into that midgayer. That's why when they convert, what do we say? Avraham. We say the guy's name. Let's say his name is now David ben Avraham. If it's the lady, it's Bat Sarah. Why do we say that? Because in reality, Avraham and Sarah are the ones that created those pieces of souls that are added onto them when they convert. So they do get that spiritual upgrade when they get converted. Also, a goy can also be righteous without converting. The Torah gives them a second option. They don't necessarily have to go convert, follow all 613. You were born a goy, stay a goy. It's okay. All you have to do is follow the 7 Noahide laws. All you have to do is follow the Sheva Mitzvot B'nei Noach. Now, and then they're considered, actually, they get a title of Hasidei Ha'omot, Hasidei Ha'olam, meaning you could be a righteous Gentile. You can see that there are goyim in the world that are doing chesed, that are doing charity, that are honest, that are keeping that are keeping laws. We see that that are not eating ever min hachai, that are not eating animals that are alive. And those Gentiles that follow those laws are considered what? Hasidei Olam, Hasidei Umot, and they get Olam Haba. But there's one little condition over here. They get their Olam Haba if they do follow the 7 Noahide laws, not because they make sense, not because it's good to have a law, not because it's a good idea to not eat a live animal, or it's a good idea to be honest and not to murder and not to kill. If they do it for those reasonings, then they didn't keep the 7 Noahide laws properly. Because anyone who wants to keep this, a goy, a Gentile, who wants to keep the 7 Noahide laws, he has to start it with this. I am keeping the 7 Noahide laws because it was commanded by God and instructed by Moshe, and that's why I'm doing it. He gets all the credit in the world. But if he doesn't do that condition, the prerequisite, that because God commanded and because Moshe passed it on to us, and that's why I'm doing it, if he's just doing it because out of his own mind, it makes sense, I want to be a good Gentile, he doesn't get that credit. Now, you should know that they do have the opportunity to get Olam Haba. But there's a machloket whether they get to the merit to get Olam Haba if they kamim betchiyat hametim, if they actually come during the time of the resurrection, when all the dead come back to life in the age of Mashiach, or just the ones rak elu shechaim betchiyat hametim, or just the ones that are alive during the time of that period. Depends. There's a machloket. If they do come back in Tchiyat HaMetim, or just the ones that during that time actually continue and they get their Olam Haba. However, even though that we see that Goyim have a different spiritual makeup than we do, you have to understand that besides that, we didn't take any sort of special titles for ourselves. We were giving a very special title. We were giving a very, very special title from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Beni Bechori. You are my firstborn child. We got that title from God. That we are the sons of the king. HaKadosh Baruch Hu is Melech Melechei HaMelachim, the king of all kings, the creator of the world. And he specifically told the Jewish nation, Beni Bechori. That's the title that he gave us. So not only are we the sons of the kings and the daughters of royalty, but he furthermore went and said that we're also Am Segula. What's Am Segula? The chosen nation. And even though that this again might sound like, we were chosen, or, this is something that is, something that might be frowned upon, but Hashem, that you might feel that this is very gaivadik, that you're very haughty about it. Oh, we're the chosen nation, like holding your head up high. The truth is, we didn't take that title. It was given to us when Hashem called us Am Segula. But you should know that everybody got a fair chance to be the chosen nation. HaKadosh Baruch Hu, before Matan Torah, did go to the Ishmaelim, to the Arabs, and asked them, would you like to get the Torah? And they said, what's in it? So he ran down to gave him a few examples of what's allowed and what's not allowed. The minute he came to Lo Tignov, we can't steal. What do you mean? That's our trade. Ve'yado bakol, and his hand is on everything. He comes to Esav, to the Christians, and he tells them, would you like to accept the Torah? What does it say there? Lo tirtzach, lo tirtzach. Look at the cross. If I turn it upside down, it turns into a sword. My entire history is going to be about killing people in the name of religion. No, sorry. I can't do the Torah. Comes to Israel, he can say, would you like to receive the Torah? What was their response? Na'aseh v'nishma. Na'aseh v'nishma. Hashem says, you, Am Segula. You're my chosen nation. Now, at that particular moment, when the Jewish people accepted the Torah and they said Na'aseh v'nishma, at the time of Matan Torah, which is in Vav Sivan, which is just a few weeks away, Shavuot, something very special happened on that day. Am Yisrael was able to go back to the point of Adam HaRishon lifnei chet etz hadat tovera. They were able to go back to the point before Adam HaRishon sinned, which means there was no death, which means that there was no yetzer. They were able to make a complete tikkun at that moment. However, and by the way, at that point in time, histalka hazoama shel chet etz hadat, meaning all the impurities that came with that sin left Am Yisrael. But only Am Yisrael. Lagoyim, lo. For the Jewish people, for the Gentiles, the chet of Adam HaRishon, the zohama of the snake, was still amongst them. It left the Jewish people, but not the goyim. Now, even though the Jewish people sinned with chet ha'egel, v'chazra hazohama, and that impurity or that status of the chet Adam HaRishon from the time of Bereshit came back to them, but it didn't come back the same way. It did not come back the same way. So we see that even though that the Jewish people sinned, meaning got to a point where they were on a much higher level, and then they went back down again between Chet HaEgel, even though they didn't come back the same way. So even the Chet of Adam HaRishon that has the Zohema is stronger with the Goyim than it is with the Jews. Ironically also, we see that over here that the Jewish people became a nation in the middle of the desert. They became Am Israel, and in the middle of the desert. They didn't become a nation because they had a land called Israel. Living in the land of Israel doesn't make you a Jew. It's the Torah that makes you a Jew. We see that the Jewish people turned to Am Israel in a desert because they received the Torah. Being in Israel doesn't mean you're Jewish. Accepting the Torah is what makes you Jewish. That's why there's Jews all over the world and they have no connection to Israel. Maybe never even set foot in Israel or never even visited. The land of Israel does not make you Jewish. It's the Torah that makes you Jewish. Now, one could also say the Torah also doesn't make you Jewish, chas v'shalom, because we know that as long as a person is born to a Jewish mother, he's considered Jewish, whether they keep the Torah or they don't. Automatically, they are considered Jewish, and that's true. It's true. And even if you're not connected to the Torah, you're still a Jew. And you're still connected, one way or the other, because you still have that godly spark inside of you. And there's a beautiful pasuk that explains the Jew that is connected to the Torah and the Jew that is not connected to the Torah, and how they're still a Jew in God's eyes. In Sefer Shemot, in Parashat Yitro, on the 19th chapter, on the 5th pasuk, it says, I'll just quote the part that pertains to our class, Ushmartem et beriti, v'haitem li segula mikol ha'amim. He says, I want you to keep my covenant, and then I want you to, and then you will be the chosen nation to me from all the nations. Now, when we want to focus in on the words, li segula, for me, a chosen nation. The word segula is very similar to the word segol. If you know anything about dikduk, or the Jewish letters and the nekudot, we know that there's kamatz, patach, tzereh, shva. One of the nekudot is a segol, and a segol is 3 dots, right? 2 on top, 1 on the bottom. The segol, any way you turn it, it always looks like segol. Flip it to the left, flip it to the right, it always looks like a segol, 3 dots. So, from here we learn that any way you flip a Jew, whether he's high, whether he's low, he's always a Jew. I'm segula. Meaning you're like the segol for me. Sometimes you're on top, sometimes you're on the bottom, but it doesn't matter. You're still a Jew for me. Furthermore, if you see the word li segula, if you make, and you are for me a chosen nation, let's take the word li. The word li, lamed, is the tallest letter in the Hebrew alphabet. Yud is the tiniest letter in the Hebrew alphabet. And here also we have this little remez, this little hint that even if you're the tallest one in the Jews, you're the highest one, you're the most religious, you're the most orthodox, you're the most connected, or whether you have zero connection or very little connection or very, very far apart, whether you are Lamed or you are Yud, Li Segula, you're my nation. Which is very beautiful because we see Hashem never gives up on us. You know, it'd be amazing if we went in Hashem's way and we went in Hashem's Torah and we made him happy by following all the 613. But he's letting us know that even if you don't, you're still my nation, you're still my people, you're still my children, I still care for you. But of course we don't lean on this pasuk not to keep the Torah and its ways. What we see here is just for anybody who's far away from the religion, is a chazkut to say Hashem is with you, no matter what. Just come back to Abba. You know, anybody who's a parent knows what it's like to have a child that's very far away from him. And Hashem has millions and millions of his children that are far away from him. And all he's waiting is from them to turn from a Yud to a Lamed so they can come back to him. Come back to me, Li. Furthermore, this Am Segula, this chosen nation, you should know that we're on a different journey we're on a different journey on this planet than anybody else. We are, as a nation, 14.7 million people out of 7.8 billion people. If you want to know the percentage of that, it's less than 1%. We are 0.18% of the world's population. We are less than 1%. And if you want to know what is the mission of these people, what is the purpose of Am Yisrael, well, you have to look at us like a special operations team. Like Hashem sent us into this world, letaken. We're the world's handyman. Everything is tikkunim. If you ever speak to a rabbi, the minute he tells you if you have any sort of hardships or you're going through some sort of difficulties, the first words that come out of their mouth, tikkunim, tikkunim. You know, everything is tikkunim. Everything is fixing. Fixing? What are we fixing? Yeah, the Jewish people were sent here to fix the world. Is the world broken? Somewhat. There are some things that need fixing, especially in the spiritual realm. And this is one of the things that Hashem sent us into this world. And you could see that, you know, I'm talking about ruchaniyut, spirituality. There's a lot of things to fix over there. But you can see that the nature of the Jew is to fix, is to create things that make the world better. Even if you're not completely a spiritual person. If you look up online, some of the things that the Jewish people have been able to accomplish and give the world, the chokhmat Yehudim, the intelligence of the Jew, you can see that they created. These are a few things that I was impressed with. The pill cam, a pill cam. You can swallow a pill, and it does a capsule and this endoscopy, which basically instead of sticking a hose down your throat with the camera, that you could swallow a pill and it transmits wirelessly a camera to a computer screen. I thought that's an amazing invention. That's us. How about netafim, micro irrigation, being able to grow beautiful green crops with just drip drop irrigation, completely different from what it was up to 5 or 10 years ago. They invented the cherry tomato, which ripens slowly and doesn't rot during shipment. The Epilady, 3G solar, the Mobile Eye, the Rav Bariach special doors that are now worldwide famous, Intel, SanDisk, the Iron Dome, Waze that we use every day, Bluetooth. They're able to create water from air. They just won the award for that. We have over 170 Nobel Peace Prizes, more than any other nation in the world. I mean, we are the world's handyman. We do have this knack to creating things and bringing things into the world that make life easier. But our real gift is our ruchaniyut, is our spirituality. That's where our real power is. That's where we really shine. That's where, you know, if a Jew really discovers the powers that he has with his spirituality, then you can really see. If you were impressed with what we were able to do in the secular world, we will really be impressed what you could do in the spiritual world. You should know that our daily happenings are on a completely different wavelength. We're on a different frequency from the rest of the world. We do things, anybody who's connected to the Torah life, mitzvot, Kadosh Baruch Hu, you see that our actions are for L'Shem Shamayim. Or even if you're not at that point, they say a person who's not living the life L'Shem Shamayim, meaning if you're not doing things for the sake of heaven, they say La'asot lo lishma kedei lagia lishma. Sometimes you do it not for the sake of heaven. Eventually you'll come to do it for the sake of heaven. But in reality, Jewish people wake up every day and their actions are L'Shem Shamayim, for the sake of heaven. How many people in the world are waking up like this? How many people are waking up in the world and every bracha that they make, every food that they eat, every action that they take, every word that comes out of their mouth is in order to sanctify l'shem shamayim? I don't know if you realize it, but that's a Jew. That's what the rabbis are teaching us. That's what they're letting us know, that is our job, our mission, our journey over here. For example, a Jew will do chesed, will do acts of kindness, will give tzedakah, will give charity, will do shmirat einayim, will protect his eyes from not seeing things that are inappropriate. And the reason for that would be l'shem shamayim. I'm doing it for the sake of heaven. Goyim don't have such a concept. The neshama doesn't have that level. Everything is for the self or for self-satisfaction, not to sanctify the name of the Creator. Everything is about the physical. Everything is about the gashmiut. There's not ruchaniut over there. Even for the ones that are religious over there, there's something that they do over there in the name of the God that they believe in or whatever spiritual entity that they're into. But very rarely or I've yet to hear someone who's doing this for the name of God, to sanctify the Shem Shamayim. I'll give you an example. For example, drinking. The goyim, when they drink, what do? They do it, to forget about all the worries that they have, to forget all the troubles that they have. They drink to get drunk. They drink to escape reality. Jews, we drink too. But what do? We drink for kiddush. We drink for the simchat chag, simchat Shabbat. We do it lezecher Shabbat, lezecher Chag. When we drink, the reason why we drink is in order to remind ourselves of God. We're going to drink now and enjoy a glass of wine or do a kiddush in order for what? In order to sanctify the day, in order to sanctify the holiday. Not only that, even when we drink, before we drink, everything that we do before we drink is say, lezecher yetziat Mitzrayim, for everything that He's done for us, to remember this holiday, to remember that holiday, to remember this event, to remember that event. Even before we drink, we're saying, I'm about to drink to remind myself of the greatness of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And we do it maybe hundreds of times throughout the year, which is very different when the goyim drink. The Jew is about the spiritual, and the goy is about the physical. Even in Purim, when we are instructed by the rabbis to drink ad delo yada, that we get to the point that you drink till you can't drink, you lose your comprehension, till you can't control yourself. What do we drink over there? We drink to zechor et asher asa lecha Amalek. When you drink, hey, remember what Amalek did to you. What's the tiskor? That even the time when we come to that one time a year, when we try to drink to escape reality once a year, it's only to enter another reality. He said we drink to be not to know the difference between Baruch Mordechai and Arur Aman. Meaning, remember and enjoy reality, not to escape it. While they drink to escape it, we'll go and get drunk and lose ourselves. But to what? Not to know the difference between Baruch Mordechai and Arur Aman, meaning it's always on our mind. What Hashem did for us, this limchot et zecher Amalek, the simcha of how the whole nation was supposed to be annihilated in one day, and we got saved. The whole day is a celebration of that. The goyim don't have that. It's a difference. The Jews is all about the spirituality. The goyim is all about the physical. I'll give you another example. A famous example of dreams. Paro had the dream about the parot, shmenot, razot. He dreamt about the cows, the fat cows, the skinny cows, and how everything was about 7 years of abundance and 7 years of famine. And, times when Egypt was going to be on a high and be very successful, and the time when Egypt was going to be on a low, when it's going to deal with a famine. That was Paro. Dreams about the physical, about the worldly. Yaakov Avinu also had a dream. What's his dream? Malachei Elokim olim ve'odim. He's dreaming about angels going up and down. You see that Paro dreams about the cows and about food and about abundance and lacking. Yaakov Avinu also dreaming. What is he dreaming about? Angels going to the Shamayim, coming down to this world. They're in the physical, we're in the spiritual. However, what happens when a Jew is not spiritual? He's into the physical. What happens when we have a Jew that is not exactly connected to his shoresh, to the root of who he is, that he's not connected to, his essence, his true Jewish identity, and unfortunately he's connected to the physical side of life. Everything's about gashmiut, money, desires, everything's about, whatever the goyim are doing. He's basically living a life of a goy, but he was born a Jew. What about that? What happens to that Jew? Well, any Jew who acts like a goy, and maybe we'll give some examples of that so we can understand what acting like a goy means, transgresses 3 lavim. There's mitzvat aseh and mitzvat lo ta'aseh. Mitzvat lo ta'aseh is a mitzvah that oftentimes comes with the punishment of malkuyot. 39 malkuyot, 39 lashes. So a person who acts like a goy and not like a Jew transgresses 3 of those. So 39 times 3. What is it? Well, I'll give you the sources. It's 3 pesukim, one from Achremot, one from Kedoshim, and one from Parashat Shoftim. Each one tells us how not to act. I'll just, again, take the parts that are pertaining to our class. But in Achremot it says, "Kemaaseh eretz Mitzrayim lo ta'asu." In the ways of the Egyptians that you lived around that wicked and tainted society for 210 years, don't go in their ways, don't mimic their ways, do not copy them. Bechukotehem lo telechu. In their ways, do not go. In Parashat Kedoshim, it also says, "Velo telchu bechukat hagoyim." Do not go in the ways of the Gentiles. In Parashat Shoftim, after it talks over there about not going to idol worshippers, not going to fortune tellers, not to do seances, and all these things that they were doing in those particular times, or whatever is mentioned in Parashat Shoftim, because a lot of the do's and don'ts are mentioned throughout the Torah, but in this particular parasha, it mentions a lot of the things that they used to do. It says, Tamim tiyeh im Hashem Elokecha. Don't go in their way and be innocent or be whole in the ways of God, your God, and follow His ways. So because we have these 3 pesukim, the rabbis tell us that the person that goes in the ways of the goyim, mimics them, acts like them, he transgresses 3 lavim, which each one has 39 malkuyot, 39 lashes. So you know what? That's it's kind of heavy, but let's try to understand it a little bit more. What does that mean? Today, explain that to me. What does it mean? Don't go in the ways of the goyim. Okay. When it says don't go bechukotehem, do not go in their laws. So what does that mean? They have laws. I mean, I'm not allowed to drive on a red light. I have to pay my taxes. There's all these laws that my society, the society that I live in here in the United States, or different people living around the world, in Australia, in China, in England, in America. You're going to tell me, don't follow their laws? The truth is, you can't do that. But that's not what the pasuk means. It doesn't mean don't go in their laws. It actually means don't follow what became their minhag, what became their way of life. For example, lo telchu bechukotehem can be explained 2 ways. The goyim have a minhag shu chok bli ta'am. They do it without a reasoning. Sometimes the goyim do something without a reasoning. That's chukotehem. That's their minhag. And then there's something that yesh bo hesber, that there is a reason. We understand exactly why they're doing what they're doing, but their way is a pritzut. What's a pritzut? It's a pritzut geder hayadut. In other words, whatever it is that they allow themselves to do and it makes sense for them, when you take that concept into Judaism, it breaches a border. It breaches a fence in our halachot, in our way of life, and we can't accept it. So lo tilchu bechukotehem is not to follow their ways, one, when it breaches our laws, or one, that there is no reason for it. They're doing something without a reason, and we're following it just as well. So when we say, Shelo Asani goy, the beracha that we're studying tonight, are we hypocrites? We're saying to Hashem, thank you that you didn't make me a goy. Are we being hypocrites? Are we absolutely not acting like goy? We're not acting like the Gentiles? Let's take a look at it. I mean, is it possible that we're not doing minhag goyim? Is it possible that we're not going in the ways of the Gentiles? Well, let's look into it, because if you think about it, there's a lot of things going on that we're already numb to it, and we are doing it. I'll give you an example. You know, maybe some people didn't get a haircut before the Omer, and you know, hopefully with the quarantine will be lifted soon, so we can go get some haircuts. But when it comes to haircuts, the Torah says explicitly, "Lo tashchit pe'at zakanecha," that you're not allowed to shave over here the pe'at zakan, right? And there's all these laws over here. It also says, "Lo takifu et pe'at roshechem." Over here, this whole thing, you can't go around it and shave it down. So, if you want me to just break it down to you, certain hairstyles that are forbidden according to Jewish law, you can't have a shaved head. You can't shave your entire beard and your entire head, just go completely shaved. That's not the way. That's the way of the goyim. You can't go and have spikes everywhere. You can't do a mohawk. That's the ways of the goyim. That's the minhag goyim. So when you say Shelo Asani goy and you're walking around with that haircut, it doesn't go. It doesn't go. So when you're trying to understand, when it says "V'lo tilchu bechukotehem," don't go in their ways, don't go in their minhagim, some basic things. If you're starting to look like them, it's not a good thing. It goes against the Torah. So you might say, so what do you want to do? Walk around with peot? So let's talk about peot for a second. First of all, peot is not a halacha at all. Peot, the long peot that we see some Hasidim do or some of the Yemenites do, it's a hidur mitzvah. They took a mitzvah and they made it more beautiful. On a Kabbalistic explanation, hair is dinim, judgment. A beard is chesed. These are pipelines for chesed, for benevolence to come into your life. Each hair over here is a pipeline for chasadim, for a person personally to have good things happen to him, whether you understand it or not, whether I'm explaining it correctly or not. But the hairs on your beard draw down chesed, kindness, into a person's life. Sometimes he doesn't understand why things are not going for him at work, zivug, children, shtom bayit. Grow a beard. Maybe things will work out for you. Apparently the Kabbalah says that chesed is connected to your beard. The hair is dinim. So why do they grow the peot? Because they want to take the din and they want to draw it down into the chesed. Whatever is the strict judgment, they want to come and make it, they sweeten the judgment with the chesed. So they want to do it from din to chesed. You know, some people have it where they go around the ear. You know why? Because they don't want the din and the chesed to mix. They grow the peot, and then they still keep it behind, meaning the din is separate and the chesed is separate. That's according to the Kabbalah, and there's a lot more meanings to it. But in reality, the point here is that when a new hairstyle comes out, shave half a head, grow half a head, just down the middle, everybody does zero, or if it's the new trend, that's minhag goyim. You're doing shalosh lavim. You're acting like a goy. I'll give you another example. Bet Knesset. We mentioned in the beginning of the class that the fine gentleman started us off with that good point, and I'll touch on it again. In Bet Knesset, we know that we are allowed to pray men and women together. The men have their own section. The women have Azarat Nashim, or if they're limited space, they do a mechitza, and it's a mechitza that covers their body and their face so we don't see them, and then we can be in the same space. However, if you go into a shul, like conservative or reform, where they sit together, or they do a mechitza, which is like, a couple of plants or a couple of trees, then when you look left, you see everybody there. It's not really hiding anything. It's just like a little partition, but it's a makeshift partition. And now you're sitting, and there's literally a woman sitting 10 inches away from you. Then at that particular time, you are now minhag goyim. You're activated minhag goyim. Why? Because the goyim, when they go into their church, that's what they sit. They all sit together. And you see that the conservative and the reform, they took that from that. They're doing it exactly that. That's also acting like a goy. So you have to be very, very careful. And like we mentioned before, even if you go to a shul, a reform shul or a conservative shul, where there's no woman over there and only men are praying, because people have prayed there before with men and women, you're not allowed to pray there. Also, the minhag goyim, to take off your shoes before you go into a place, whether before you go into a synagogue, before you go into a mosque, or before you go into some sort of a Japanese spiritual place, or before you go to, some churches, and they have a thing where take off your shoes before. You can't come into a shul and take off your shoes. That's minhag goyim. We spoke about a seance. The goyim have a thing where they do a seance, where they do a special thing with the cup, where they do the letters of the name, they call it up, and they dredge up the neshama of the deceased to speak to them. We're not allowed to do that. That's minhag goyim. That's chokot goyim. And we see that some Jews have done that. There's stories of people doing that in the army, in the Israeli army. There's stories of people are doing that in Israel. There's some famous movie stars or TV stars in Israel that have done it. You're not allowed to do that. That's chokot goyim, minhag goyim. So when you say Shelo Asani goy, you have to stay away from these things. Now I'm just touching a few things just to let you know. But anything that they do is off limits to us. That's what makes us Am Segula, the chosen nation. Hashem gave us a way to behave, act, talk, think. Anything that they do is off limits to us. Talk about fashion. Fashion is constantly changing. We have our fashion is one fashion, tzniut. Dress humble. Dress in a way where you are covered. We have certain guidelines for the woman. They past the elbow, past the knee, don't show the collarbone. That's been the rules for thousands of years. Do any color you want, do any style that you want, but as long as you follow those guidelines, you're good. And as long as it's not tight and not being too out there. Now there's mini skirts. Any girl that wears a mini skirt, that's minhag goyim. That's not our way. You're emulating a goy or a goya. That's not our way. And not only that, you're transgressing chukot akum, meaning you're copying the idol worshiper, and isur yehudi, and you're going against a thing of what a Jew is not supposed to do. Double header. Also, the new fashion right now: nose ring, belly ring, tongue ring. That's chukot goyim. That's an isur for us. We're not allowed to act like that, to look like that. That's not our way. Shelo Asani goy. That's all that. So you have to, I'll give you another example. Chatuna, when you get married, it's a ring is not really necessary. When you see them in the movies, they give you a ring. He gives her a ring. She gives her a ring. Us, as long as it's a value of a pruta, anything that has the value of a penny, let's say, you can marry her. You could take let's say you could take a a candy bar and tell her bezotat mekudeshet li, that's it, she's yours. You could take anything that has some sort of value and tell her because of this, bezet mekudeshet li, a piece of clothing, anything that has value, she's married to you. Doesn't necessarily have to be a ring. The thing that we do, the ceremony, that we take a ring and we say bezot mekudeshet li, that's fine. But to give it to a guy, that's never been our custom. It's never been our custom that the woman puts a ring on us as well. I mean, if you want to give her a fancy ring, she wants to give you a ring as a gift also, by all means. Why not? A ring that was a gift because of the wedding, that's all that. But as far as the ceremony of doing that, that's not our way. Even the chuppah has always been a talit that's over, some sort of a canopy. This whole thing now with ornate, with flowers and all that, look it up in the halakha. The rabbis frown on it, and it's chukot hagoyim. You know, are you allowed to do cheers? Are you allowed to toast with a goy? Are you allowed to have a drink with a goy? So the truth of the matter is, it tells us that we shouldn't intermingle with them, that we shouldn't break bread with them, because breaking bread makes the heart grow fonder, and when you eat with somebody, you get closer to them, and when you drink with them, you get closer to them. But let's just say you have a lot of Gentile friends, and let's just say you opened up a new business, or you got a brand new house, and you know what? They're good people. And they keep the 7 Noahide laws because Hashem commanded them and because Moshe instructed us in the Torah. And they're doing all the right things. Are you allowed to have a drink with them? Are you allowed to do a lechaim? So the answer is yes. The only thing is, as a Jew, you need to eat first. And why would that be? Because the ways of the goyim is to drink on an empty stomach in order to get drunk. Because anybody who drinks without eating gets drunker faster or becomes a harder drunk, whatever it is. A Jew, because it's not our custom to drink for no reason, and it's not our custom to just even drink hard liquor the way that the goyim do, just without eating. One of our conditions is that before we drink, we put something in our mouth. Something to show that we're eating and drinking. Why? In order to decipher us, to make a difference between us and the goyim, that we don't act like them. It's interesting, and they said that when they do lechaim, one of the things that you do with a goy, you have to do a very strong lechaim, that some of it actually spills. Not only that it spills, but actually when you do a lechaim, that some of his liquid goes into yours and your liquid goes into his. And what's the source for that? They said that back in the days, a lot of Jews used to do a lot of business with the goyim. Big business, right? Big merchants. So at the end, when I say, oh, you know what? Let's celebrate. We did a great transaction right now. Here, let's take some arak. You take a little bit, I'll take a little bit, and let's drink lechaim. What happens? They used to put a little bit of poison in it. Why? Because they would do this huge business. There'd be tremendous amount of money. They would then try to poison the Jew. He would drink it, and then they walk away with the money and with the merchandise. So in order not to do that, and not to embarrass the goy after such a great transaction that they did, so they would do a lechaim, but they would do it really hard with the liquids would mix. So like that, if any poison was in the Jew's cup, he would drink it as well. Or he wouldn't drink it and he would realize it. So we're allowed to drink with them for certain reasons, but make sure that you eat first, because drinking without eating is the way of the goyim. Another thing that you might not know, don't go in their ways. We have names. We have Jewish names. But yet we have Jews that are called Kyle, Patrick, Stephen, Brian. There's no Brian in the Torah. There's no Stephen in the Torah. There's no Patrick in the Torah. There's no Kyle in the Torah. We have our Hebrew names. And you go by the Hebrew name. Why do we have those names? Because we live amongst the goyim. And we want to fit in. And we don't want him to say Chaim. So we say Joey. Or I don't know what the name. Or Jamie. I know, before my teshuvah, I dealt with that issue. I never went by my name Sharone, because I thought it was like a weird name, and I didn't want to go explain to everybody what my name was about. So I went by the name of Sean. for many, many years. But when I finally realized the power of the Hebrew letters and the spiritual energy of each letter, and how each letter in your name draws luck and success and bracha and atzlacha, and when into your life. So when blessings come from the heaven and they say, I have a bracha for Sharone Moshe ben Jacqueline, it finds an address. When you say, oh, I have a bracha for Sharone Moshe ben Jacqueline, but they're like, no, there's a Sean over here. Oh, return to sender. This blessing is not for a Sean, it's for Sharone. Go by your Jewish name. Otherwise, you're morphing yourself to go in the ways of the Goyim in order to fit into their society. Your name has spiritual powers, and this is maybe a class for a different time, but don't pass up on that. We've been in the diaspora for thousands of years, and we have to rediscover being Jewish. A lot of us have to rediscover it. What does it mean to be Jewish? What does it mean to be Jewish? It's hard to explain. So many different levels of religiosity, so many different customs, sects, traditions. It's simpler to figure out how to not be a goy. Shelo Asani goy. It's easier to define yourself by looking at a Gentile and saying, that's what I shouldn't be. Thank you, God, that you didn't make me like that. As opposed to trying to find yourself and rediscover yourself and say, who am I as a Jew? Because we see that you have millions and millions of people that are struggling with that. They're struggling trying to understand, who am I as a Jew? So to understand this particular Asani goy, sometimes it's easier to crystallize who you are by understanding what you're not. Well, what things that you're not supposed to be. If I'm not supposed to be that, that's what makes me a Jew. I don't do that. I don't act like a goy. Another beautiful explanation that I saw to the original question we had in the beginning of the class. We say, why do we say Shelo Asani goy? That he did not make me a goy, a Gentile. Why don't we say Sha'asani Yehudi? Why don't we say that, thank you Hashem for making me a Jew? Because, this is a beautiful answer that I saw, that Hashem made you a Jew. Yes, you were born to a Jewish mother. You were born hopefully to a Jewish mother and a Jewish father. You come from this heritage, or you come from this dynasty of Jews that has come from generation to generation to generation to generation. So thank you, Hashem, that you made me a Jew. Sha'asani, that you made me a Jew. However, Sha'asani Yehudi, if we were to say thank you, Hashem, for making me Jewish, that wouldn't be correct. Because liyot Yehudi, because in order to be a Jew, it's in your hands. It's your job to become a Jew. It's your job not to become a goy. Meaning the fact that you were born into a Jewish family or to a Jewish mother, okay, you hit the lotto. And the chances of that is less than 1%. 0.18% that you would be born into a Jewish mother in this 7.4 billion people population that we have on the planet. But for you to become a Yehudi, that's on you. For you not to act like a goy, that's on you. For you to earn the title of Yehudi, that's on you to do. So Hashem will tell you, Shelo Asani goy, I did my part. I didn't make you a goy. But to become a Jew, that's on you. Because a Jew, again, is not an Israeli. It's not somebody who was born in Israel or is connected to the land of Israel. A Yehudi is a person who was connected to the Torah. The Torah is what makes you Jewish. The Torah is what brings out your Judaism. You should know that also the numbers are that about 70% of the Jewish people are not affiliated, not connected, not observant, and only about 30 or 40%, and growing, are Orthodox or religious or affiliated or getting closer to Kadosh Baruch Hu. Thank God. Thank God for what it is. In the time of Mashiach, there's going to be a big push of Teshuvah, and we're feeling it already. We are true examples of it. Everybody here that's on the listening into a Torah class knows that everybody's on their way back. It's just a matter of time. But you should know that Hashem put Jews on this planet for a reason. We're supposed to be a light onto the nation. Maybe we're not doing such a great example of that at the moment, but that is our purpose. And when we act like Jews and we go in the ways of Hashem, the Gentiles love us because we serve our purpose. We're doing what we're supposed to do. We're fulfilling our mission. You know, some of you that have listened to some of my previous classes maybe have heard this story before, but I'll share it very quickly because it's very nogea to this class. When the Jews were in Egypt, they were welcomed alien, a resident alien. They loved him. They gave him the best part of Egypt. They gave him Goshen. It's one of the best places to be. And they loved them because they knew that the Jews were going to come, they're going to help them, they're going to make them a better place. They really welcomed Yaakov and his 12 children. Later on, things changed because the Jews didn't stay in Goshen. They were in Goshna and Mitzrayim. They went into Mitzrayim. They started to wheel and deal in the Egyptian markets. They didn't stay in the place where they were supposed to be. They didn't stay in their neighborhood or in their city that they were given to. And there was a rise of anti-Semitism in Mitzrayim, to the point that they were hated, to the point that they were feared, to the point that they got enslaved because of it. And when the time came to leave, and Am Yisrael merited to the Mashiach of the time, Moshe Rabbeinu, and in the midst of the 10 plagues, in Makat Choshech, and the plague of darkness, something very interesting happens over there. They were hit 8 times with a devastating plague. On the 9th time, one right before the last, Makat Choshech, they come out of the 9th plague, and you know what they say? It says, it says that the Jewish people found favor in the eyes of the Egyptians. So you scratch your head. They just came out of the plague of darkness, where they couldn't move for 3 days. They just got demolished with the past 8 plagues in Mitzrayim, and all of a sudden they come to the realization, I like the Jews. They're great. I really appreciate them for who they are. And it's very, very hard to understand what happened in Makat Choshech that made the Egyptians say, that they found favor in the eyes of the Egyptians. So the Midrash says, while they were frozen in place for 3 days, while they couldn't move during Makat Choshech, and the Jews could move around freely, they saw that the Jews came into their house. They came into their house and they moved away the picture that had the safe, that inside the safe was the Rolex and the diamonds and the jewelry. And you know what they did? Nothing. They didn't take it. They went into the homes of the Egyptians. They saw all their gold, all their riches, all their jewels, and they didn't take it. And you know what happened at that moment? The Egyptian says, I like them. You know why? Because they were honest. You know why? Because they were acting Jewish. They didn't act like the Goyim. They didn't grab everything that they saw over there and make a run for it. They didn't run away from Egypt. They stayed in their place and they stayed honest. When a Jew acts like a Jew, the Goyim love him. When a Jew acts like a Goy, the Goys begin to hate him. The Gentiles don't like it when the Jews act like them. They don't like it when we take over their businesses and their cities and their professions. They don't like that. That's how there's anti-Semitism. You're supposed to be the people of the book. You're supposed to have your own ways. You're supposed to have your own laws. You're supposed to be light unto the nation. What are you coming here and acting like a Goy? Who asked you to mimic me? Keep in mind, they don't mimic us. You don't see anybody saying, Hey, you know what? I heard that once a year you guys fast for 25 hours. Sounds interesting. I do intermittent fasting anyways for 16 hours a day. Let's see what it's like for 25. Nobody's copying us. You don't see anybody coming to the prayers of Pesach for 7 days. Oh, let me see what it's like to pray. Let me see what it's like to sit in the sukkah. They have zero interest in what we do. Yet we are super interested in what's going on with them. Anything that they're doing, we love to copy, emulate, and mimic. Shelo Asani goy, you have to really understand what it's about. It's about living out your true Jewish identity. And no matter how far away you are from the religion, no matter how far you are from this ideal Jew that you're supposed to do, keep in mind, Hashem says, Am Segula. He says, Li, Am Segula, for me. Doesn't matter if you're really big in your spirituality or you're not even connected at the moment, you're still my Am Segula. Anywhere you are, if you're high, if you're low, if you're up, if you're down, you're my nation. Which means that you always have a way to come back. You always have to connect, but you just connect to your true self. If you've been already trying to copy every other culture or every part of somebody else's culture, make your way back. Hashem wants to show you the beauty of you as a real Jew, as a practicing Jew. And it is really beautiful. It's really, really beautiful when you discover your Jewish self. Shelo Asani goy becomes an unbelievable beracha. Wow, how did I act like that, talk like that, dress like that, think like that? Give yourself a chance to be a Jew. It's a beautiful thing. As a matter of fact, on this particular point, we know that Hashem gave the land of Israel to the Jewish people, and it's called Eretz Zavat Chalav Udvash, the land of milk and honey. Now, from the land of milk and honey, we can learn a lot in regards to what we're learning tonight. Chalav, milk, is something very interesting. I think Masechet Birkot speaks about this. That a woman is able to take blood in her body and transform it or turn it into milk. And we know that blood is not allowed to be consumed, but milk is. So we have over here something interesting, something that is not permissible to be consumed, which is blood, that turns into something that is permissible to be consumed, which is milk. Let's take the word dvash, honey. Honey comes from a bee. We are not allowed to eat bees, right? It's a what's the word for it? Forgot what the word for it for insects in Hebrew. But anyways, a bee, we're not allowed to eat it. Yet it's permissible to eat honey. Now there's a rule. There's a rule that you should know. Yotze mi tameh, tameh. Anything that comes out of something that's not kosher is not kosher. Like for example, can I eat an egg, like an ostrich egg? It's just an egg, right? No. Why? Because it came from an ostrich. Anything that comes out from something impure, something that's not kosher, we cannot eat. Something that comes out from it, so like an ostrich egg is not. Or let's say a camel. Camels produce milk. Can I drink camel milk? No. Why? Because he's tameh, he's not kosher. I can't eat anything that comes out from that animal. So similarly, just like I can't eat an ostrich egg, just because I can't drink camel milk, but we see the devora, the bee, it's tameh, it's impure, but yet we're still able to eat its honey. Just like the woman has the milk, that it's blood, we can't consume, but we can still drink the milk. What's the lesson over here? That there are times that yotze mi tameh kasher. That sometimes there's something that comes out of something that's impure becomes pure. Something that comes out that is not permissible becomes permissible. We see it in the milk, we see it in the honey. But how do we see it? Sometimes there's a Jew that comes out from what? From two parents that don't keep Shabbat, don't keep Torah, don't keep the holidays. They're tameh. And then all of a sudden the kid comes out, he listens to a couple of classes online, connects to a couple of rabbis, has a couple of good friends in the community that are bringing him closer, and all of a sudden it becomes kasher. So you see, Yotzeh mitameh kasher. That even though he came from an environment that's completely spiritually impure, and he comes out to be kosher. What does that mean? That you never canceled out. We always have a chance to come back. We always have a chance to come back from our goyish ways. We live in the diaspora. We live in the exile. Everything around us is the ways of the goyim. It's almost, and we live in olam hasheker, in the world that everything is lies. And yet still we're holding on to our Judaism. We're holding on to our identity, or at least we're trying to. But in the meantime, as we're learning to, to get a little bit better at keeping the laws of Hashem, keeping the laws of the Torah, and as we're learning the basics, the beginning of starting the day, I was saying, Shelo Asani Goy, we're just glancing over it. Thank you, Hashem, that I wasn't born a Goy. Yeah, great. But today we got a much deeper look of what that means. And are you going to be able to go tomorrow and open up Birkot Hashachar and say it honestly? That you can say that you're not acting like a goy, you're not dressing like a goy, you're not thinking like a goy, you're not behaving like a goy. Baruch Shelo Asani Goy. Oh Hashem, I'm so happy you didn't make me a goy, but I'm definitely acting like a Yehudi. Lastly, when we say Shelo Asani Goy, why do we have to say it every day? Couldn't we just say Shelo Asani Goy one time in our life and that's it, would be for a lifetime? Why do we daily have to say Shelo Asani Goy, Shelo Asani Goy, Shelo Asani Goy? It's like it's a given. I know that I wasn't born a Gentile. It's like clear as day that I'm Jewish. I was born to Jewish parents. Is there a reason why I have to say every single day Shelo Asani Goy? Couldn't the rabbis have instituted that they can just say this beracha once a year on Rosh Hashanah, once a year on Kippur? Choose a special day. I'm not a goy day, and we celebrate it. Why is it that every single day the rabbis instituted that we do Shelo Asani Goy? So the Arizal in his book Shara Mitzvot says something very interesting. He says, anybody who doesn't say Shema al Amita, Shema Israel is something that we're obligated to say. It's a Torah obligation to say Shema Israel in the morning and at night, in Shachrit and in Arvit. But we also have a custom to say it before we go to sleep, and it's called Kriyat Shema Shel Amita. And there's more to it. I think we did the whole class of the right way to end the day. Over there, we went a little bit more in detail about the laws and the rules of Kriyat Shema Al Amita. But just for this class, you should know that saying Kriyat Shema Al Amita, which is the way that you end the day, you sit down, you think about all the actions that you did, you ask for forgiveness, you do Shema Yisrael, and you're almost like escorting your neshama with tefillot. So when it leaves your body for the night and it goes and reports all your doings in the heavens and then comes back to your body in the morning, when you say Modeh Ani Birkot Hashachar, for that entire process, when you do Kriyat Shema Al Amita, when the neshama goes up to the shamayim, it's protected. It has a protection. However, when you don't do Kriyat Shema Al Amita, your neshama is not protected. So between the time that it leaves your body, goes to the heavens, reports, and comes back down, there is a chance that another piece of another neshama can latch on to your neshama, and it's called an ibur neshama. Ibur is like to impregnate. It's as if your neshama got impregnated by a different, by an additional piece of a different neshama. Sometimes you go to the heavens and you get an ibur, a neshama of a tzaddik. You get a little spark of a tzaddik that comes with you, and all of a sudden you're able to learn more, and your avodat Hashem is unbelievable. You're like, oh, what's going on over here? You know what? In the Shamayim, they give you a little bit of a tzaddik to help you out throughout the day, to help you out through the stage that you're in, to help you up to go to the next level that you're so yearning for. You needed a little bit of Rashbi, you needed a little bit of Rashi, you need a bit of Rabbi Akiva, who knows which rabbi, a little bit of Baba Sali, who knows which rabbis they put inside in order to get you to the next level. But anybody who goes to sleep and doesn't send up his neshama with the protection of Kriyat Shema al Amita and all the pesukim that are before, after, everything, that whole 3-4 page reading over there, there's a chance that he can get back a piece of neshama of a goy. And then the entire day he's having difficulties praying, he's having difficulties doing mitzvot, he's having difficulties acting like a Jew. Why? He didn't protect his neshama, and when his neshama came back down, neshama of a goy latched onto it, and there you go. So the Arizal says, why do we say every morning, Shelo Asani goy? Thanking Hashem that another neshama didn't impregnate his neshama and make it difficult for him to be a Jew. As a matter of fact, it goes the same thing, Shelo Asani goy, Shelo Asani aved, Shelo Asani isha. It goes for those three berachot. Shelo Asani goy, we're talking about it right now. Shelo Asani aved, that he didn't give me this neshama of a slave, that I have a slave mentality, not a freed mentality, but a slave mentality, or all of a sudden it's going to be very difficult for me to break certain habits. Or sometimes, Shelo Asani isha, that a man can get impregnated with a neshama of a woman. You know, sometimes all of a sudden you become super moody. All of a sudden things are bothering you. Or sometimes your friends will tell you, stop acting like a girl. You know? What happened? Maybe you had an ibur neshama that night of a woman. So the Arizal says, Shelo Asani goy, Shelo Asani aved, Shelo Asani isha, that a person, if he's not careful with protecting his neshama before it goes up with Kriyat Shema al Amita, he's susceptible to have a different piece come down in the morning and slow down his spiritual journey, his spiritual practice. There are so many reasons to be incredibly proud and overjoyed to be part of this great nation, to be called a Jew. There's so many things that we should look forward to. Our religion offers us so much to flourish as a person. It would absolutely be foolish to ignore everything that Hashem has given us as a gift to grow and to go and try to be somebody else, a different culture that is not us. Our neshama is wired different. We have different compartments that need spiritual sustenance. When you go and you starve your neshama and you don't give it the Torah and you don't give it kosher food and you don't give it prayer, it starves. And all you're giving it is the behemiyut. All you're giving it is you're feeding only the nefesh. You're only letting it experience itself as a goy. It always feels a void. A Jew will always feel like something is missing. And at the end of the day, when you're 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, at one point you get to the point that the thing that's been missing this whole time is those other parts in your neshama that didn't get their spiritual sustenance. You were acting like a goy. You didn't give it the spiritual sustenance of a Jew. There's so much available to us. And this is a great time to really tune into it and to remind ourselves on a daily level. Shelo Asani goy. Thank you, Hashem, that you didn't make me a Jew, a Gentile. Making me a Jew is a gift. It's like winning the lotto. It's 1 in a billion chance. Less. It's less than 1 in a 7.8 billion chance that your neshama came out to be in this world. And there's no better time to actually get to know your Jewish identity in this time of Mashiach that we're living in. Mashiach is not coming for those that don't want to become Jewish. He's coming for all the in-betweeners, for all the ones that are acting like goys, but are also acting like Jews. The ones that are in the middle, you know, they have the funny haircut, but they still go to minyan. They have the ripped jeans and the new fashion, but they're still doing Kiddush and Shabbat. He's going for those in-betweeners. He's like, come, I understand you're 50-50. Come be a little bit more like a Jew. Do a little bit more mitzvot. Show me, act more like in the way that Hashem wants you. That's who the Mashiach is coming for. He's coming for the people that are on the fence. And when you start your day believing Shelo Asani Goy, you start to tip the scale where Mashiach is going to start coming for you as well. Be'ezat Hashem, שנזכה לגאולה, שנזכה להיות יהודים. And I speak for myself, and I speak for practically almost every person that I know. It's very challenging to be in this world, to be in the diaspora, to walk around the entire planet and be completely different. But we're supposed to be. We're supposed to be different. Hashem sent us here on a mission, and and our journey is to complete that mission, to help fix the world through our spiritual performance. Do your part, do your share, help bring Mashiach, and be thankful that you were born a Jew, and have more kavanot in the morning. Shelo Asani Goy. Hashem vayich otchem v'sameach otchem, and be'ezat Hashem we see you again next week. שיתו לבכם וחלה פסמונתה למועד הספר דור חלום.